Hey guys, welcome to Prep Life. Let's kick this thing off with current events. I'm sure you heard about this guy, Tyree Nichols. If I mispronounce his name, I apologize. So I'm going to read you headlines because this stuff is really current. The video of his beating is being released today. This kid was killed by these law enforcement officers, who all happen to be African-American, by the way. The city of Memphis is set to release video of Tyree Nichols' arrest to the public sometime after 7 p.m. I don't know why they would release it at 7 p.m. Like, that's the worst time to release things. I think right now they've already had a riot or a protest that turned into some violent acts happen last night. But 5 former Memphis police officers involved in the arrest have been charged with murder and kidnapping. The Shelby County District Attorney announced Thursday Nichols was pulled over on January 7th by the Memphis police for reckless driving, and a confrontation occurred. The department said Nichols died 3 days later. The police chief said the department has been unable to find anything that substantiated the probable cause for reckless driving. What we know, it's been almost 3 weeks since a traffic stop in Memphis led to a violent arrest, and 3 days later, the death of 29-year-old black driver. I mean, they have to do this, dude. They have to do this. They have to put his race in there. He was hospitalized after he was pulled over on January 7th, police said. 5 Memphis Police Department officers, who are also black, well, at least they did that, were fired after an internal investigation and are facing criminal charges, including second-degree murder charges. Key questions remain unanswered as the nation already vigilant on how the police treat people of color, especially following the mass protest of 2020. So before it was about a race issue, now it's about police in blue killing African Americans or people of color. This is going to be bad. Here, let me say something, because I got notified by a buddy of mine who's a police officer last night, and if you didn't see it already, I did the Joe Rogan podcast. An amazing experience, which I'll talk about later. But in the podcast, I referred to Andy Stump's experience in being a DevGru operator and then coming out of that experience and then becoming a police officer. I mean, there's not a lot of translations for that experience operating at high levels in counterterrorism and then doing a job that is translatable, right? I would say, you know, the guy hit me up and he was very professional about it. But he said, hey, guys, wanted to know what you meant by that. And typically my response would be, stop being so weak. Like, stop. If I said one sentence in unique context, like stop being sensitive, but it is a sensitive topic because it's police. I support police officers that are good police officers. These 5 guys, according to the district attorney and to what I've seen so far, are likely not good police officers. Whether they're black, white, Hispanic, whatever, that should be noted. But I support police officers. The analogy that I used, or the example that I used, is if you take a guy who is used to running 100 miles an hour, and let's be honest, police officers aren't always LAPD SWAT. They're not doing the job that translates. They're writing tickets. Or if they're in a rural town, they're not doing anything. So that going 100 miles an hour to 0 and putting on the brakes could be detrimental to the mental health of an operator or a guy with profound experiences in combat. That was what I meant by that. So I support the men and women in blue, but also support people of any color that are wrongfully beaten or whatever by bad law enforcement officers. I'll just put that out there. Also in the news, we're looking at these 3 mass shootings. Not a very good look for Asians, by the way. And I say that seriously because 2 of the mass shootings involved Asians that went crazy. And I don't know what it is. I've been seeing the national media cover this in weird ways. I don't think it's an Asian issue. I think it's a California issue. I also think it's a mental health issue. When 110,000 people die of fentanyl overdoses, a lot of those dying in California, that's not a drug problem. That's not a cartel problem. That's a mental health problem. So we're dealing with that. I thought it was comical that one of the shooters who used an assault pistol, because we're redefining words, because words are creative now. We could just redefine the way that we use them. Stated that an assault pistol was used. How about a semi-automatic pistol was used? Kudos to the guy who tackled the guy and took the pistol away from the shooter. I believe the shooter was in his 70s, older gentleman who's getting back at his wife or something like that. So it was domestic, but winded up being a mass shooting where he killed a lot of innocent people. Also, we had this cartel shooting that took place where 6 innocent people, including a 10-month-old child, were murdered. This is not being covered by the national media. I don't get it. I don't understand where we're at on it. But it's likely because in California, who has the strictest gun laws in America, the national media reported California has the strictest gun laws in America, and they are dealing with these mass shootings, which is just proof to what everybody's been saying, that it doesn't matter how many laws you create because criminals don't follow law. Why that's like a thing is just bizarro world for me. Lastly, let's talk about this Ukraine thing. 31 Abrams tanks, 90 Strikers, 50 Bradleys as part of this deal that we did with Ukraine and providing them with material support. This is not the U.S. government giving Ukraine these things. This is the taxpayers. This is you giving them these things. Hundreds of thousands of people have died in Ukraine, including civilians. And we are worried about the ATF going after an accessory, a stabilization brace on an AR platform. But we're okay with giving 31 tanks, Abrams tanks. That is a battalion of tanks. 50 Bradley mechanized vehicles that I've been in combat, and I've seen what they do. They win is what they do. So not that I don't want Ukraine to be supported, but without a clear and us understanding as a society what the strategy is going to be, why are we okay with this? I play devil's advocate here. If I'm Russia and the U.S. through this NATO alliance is going after me and they're providing material support and training on the border with Ukraine that are killing my guys in the field, well, I'm going to escalate. And what does escalation mean for a superpower that has thousands of nukes? I mean, one dirty bomb, and then World War III initiates. And do you think they're not going to launch an intercontinental ballistic missile? If all hell breaks loose and these rumors that are being thrown at us, that potentially Putin has cancer, he's on his way out anyways, he gets reckless, he starts pushing the buttons, what does that look like for us? But if you go on every single national media page, I went on them this morning, ABC, CNN, Fox News, and NBC, not one of them is covering any of this. They're covering certainly the things going on in Memphis, Tennessee. They're also covering all the Hollywood BS, but they're not covering anything when it comes to a potential World War III. And we're okay with it. Our representatives in Congress and the Senate, at every level, we're okay with it. And we're worried about a stabilization brace. It's bewildering. Let's talk about mindset and resilience. So I did this Rogan podcast, and look, I'm going to put it out there. It's a little early to be putting this out there, and my company kind of freaks out on me when I do these things. Two things. One, on the Rogan podcast, I put out that we are going to do an American Jiu-Jitsu program. I am serious about that. So I have been in martial arts my entire life. It is Muay Thai kickboxing. I used to box at MBS in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've done Taekwondo. I've done Ninjutsu. I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was a combatives instructor in the military. It's been a part of my life. Since I've had a couple injuries, I've slowed it down, but I need to get back into it. Greg Anderson, who's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Andy Stumpf, who's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Leah Stumpf, who was a black belt in BJJ. I've been having conversations with them, and Leah, Andy, and Greg and myself think there needs to be a good, sound American Jiu-Jitsu program. The base and foundation, this is like us saying, hey, we need a self-defense program, and the base is the fundamentals of marksmanship. BJJ are the base and the fundamentals. Whether it's gi or no gi, the traditions, the art form, they did it. What I mean when I say American is there needs to be some correlation, at least in the Fieldcraft perspective, of self-defense tactics. Like intentionally going and putting somebody in my guard and going to my back potentially isn't advantageous in a situation where you're fighting for your life. So achieving top mount, side mount, and control and dominating the person on the ground might be a greater advantage. Those little tactics and techniques, I am not the expert at. I certainly understand it. But between myself, Greg, Leah, Andy, and subject matter experts that are in our circle, we want to kind of redefine the protocol. That's not us redefining jiu-jitsu because the base and the foundation is certainly there. But what does that look like for us? What looks like a Black Rifle Coffee tethered to a Fieldcraft Survival, where you go in and a one-stop shop. Think YMCA for the preparedness-minded individual, where you can get the community, you can get the fitness, you can get the mindset, resilience, and you can get trained. You can get the products. But it starts with fitness, but it also starts with jiu-jitsu. When people come into our shops, I want them to train softly or CrossFit on the back end to get fit. I want them to be members of our gym where they get access to all those things, including jiu-jitsu. And I also want them to train them on the weekends to get the simunitions experience and all the things that we train, like personal security. The list goes on. Also, I started a new experienced course called Rewilding. I launched this recently. It's up on fieldcraftsurvival.com. And in my own way, I want a 72-hour reset to get away from synthetic, immersed technology. Like I'm dry heaving here because of how much technology I'm living in. That's not a bad thing as long as you strike a balance. Well, what's the balance? Most of you, including myself, don't have a balance. If you go and do jiu-jitsu 3 days a week, if you take your family to the zoo, you could strike a balance as long as you put your cell phone down. I want a course where you take off your shoe, you get grounded, you do yoga, you do fireside chats, you live a little primal, you get a little scarce and a little famined, so you appreciate the feast. And it's a reset where when you come out of that and you take that hot shower and it hits your back, you appreciate it more. But it's a good hard reset, like blowing the dust out of that Nintendo cartridge. I want to do that course. We're doing it this year. I'll be hosting that course with special guests, which I won't announce because they're special. They'll be fireside with you. Super excited about that course. Lastly, when it comes to mindset, when it comes to resilience, guys, you have to stay off the negative bandwagons of all this drama. I thought it was funny. Somebody mentioned, Jericho Denman mentioned that I was wearing a vest, a life preserver, which is funny because if you didn't grow up in the 80s, then you would probably not know what that meant. And a lot of guys who were likely millennials who didn't grow up in the 80s thought that was an attack on me or something. And then they're jumping on the bandwagon because they're like, yeah, screw that guy. He's dumb. He's wearing a life preserver. Like, no, you're dumb because you didn't watch Back to the Future 2, which is like the greatest movie of all time. So Eberl Stock is an amazing company. This vest that I'm wearing with their new camo is one of the best camos that I've seen in the industry. I like Jocko's new camo. I like this camo, and we'll rep the best camo. There are a couple companies out there that are good and decent, and there's a couple companies that suck really bad. I'm going to wear the companies that are good people, and yeah, I'm wearing a vest. I like vest. No big deal. If you're jumping on the bandwagon because you see some shit and you want to jump on some shit because it feels good, you're just dumb. I mean, you're being emotionally charged and elevated because you're buying into the bullshit you read. So if at the same time you make fun of woke culture, that's what woke culture is. That's what the Me Too movement is. That's what cancel culture is, because you're jumping on the bandwagon because you're not smart enough or intelligent enough to read context. Jericho Dimmon's a friend of mine. And vests are cool. Live your vest life. That's all I got to say about that. I'm moving on. All right, so we break it down to EDC, mobility, and homestead. Let's talk about EDC. The reason I advocate for vests, one, I like them. Two, when you're thinking about EDC and carrying configurations, where you place and position your pistol matter when it comes to addressing an immediate threat. If there's an immediate threat and time is of the essence, which it is, the principles of winning a gunfight are time and accuracy, or speed and accuracy. I want to access the backstrap of that pistol super fast. Well, if you carry outside of your waistband and it's underneath the vest. In one swipe or movement, you could access that pistol on the side of your waistband. That's going to be faster than clearing the back strap and holster because you're removing material and trying to access that. Or even a fanny pack. I'm a proponent of them. We make a Fieldcraft fanny pack, but it's going to be slow compared to if you had a vest. Why would a vest be advantageous in wintertime? Well, I like a vest because it protects your core body temperature, right? It keeps your core warm, but you can remove it easily. And most of these vests are stuffable. Like you could stuff this in a fanny pack. You can stuff it in a backpack. You just throw it in your car. So I like the addition of that, right? So think about the vest and introducing it. Again, Eberl makes a great vest. Sitka has a great vest. I'm certainly a vest guy, and I wish Fieldcraft has its vest with Vertex, which is one of my favorite vests. Live your vest life. Just give it a try. Carry the pistol outside the waistband, which might require you to tuck in your pistol or tuck in your shirt. If you don't like to do that, just tuck the shirt where the pistol is behind the belt. We have an MRS magnet retention holster for Glock 17, Glock 19, and we have the Tenacore holster inside the waistband as well that uses plastic and retention for most models. If you like other options, Tier 1 concealment makes great holsters. Also, somebody was showing me, a buddy of mine, Sam in Texas, was showing me Shrek, John McPhee's leather version of that. Man, I'm a big fan of leather. I love leather. If you could break it in really well, that could be a good option for you as well. Moving on to mobility. Man, if you haven't seen it already, we could show it to you because I could pop it. Bam, it's populated on the screen. You have the Land Cruiser build that we're doing, which is a right-hand turbo diesel Land Cruiser that we're getting ready for a lot of overland content in the springtime as well as Overland Expo. If you are not signed up for Overland Expo in Arizona this May, you have to come see us. It's like the second to last week in May. The whole team from Fieldcraft will be out there. It's everything. It's Fieldcraft. It's vehicle companies. It's all the accessories. It's tactical. It's all the things. This 4-door truck, which is originally a Japanese fire truck, we work with GP Factor. We work with Expedition Superstore right here in Salt Lake City to build it out with Goose Gear interior. And the guys from OK 4-Wheel Drive imported this alu cab setup, which is one of a few in the country. Well, Mike, why would you do that if you can't get it for that kind of Land Cruiser? Because just like somebody would do a prototype or something cool as like this is the extreme version, you can get an alu cab tent rooftop, which I'm getting for all my rigs, which has lighting already pre-rigged, which is insulated, which is a clamshell design, which is easy to use. I think Alucab makes the best. Look, we're not sponsored by these guys. I wish we were because Mike Hernandez, I need some like free Alucabs. But we put in the orders to pay for them ourselves, and we paid for this Alucab ourselves because they're the best product. And we want to inspire people to get outdoors more and also think about mobility and preparedness. If you outfit your rig with all the things, mobility panel, which is going to be a redesign, we're going to put, right now you could put like a 3A soft armor on it. We're going to integrate it into the bag for the new redesign. I hope to at least get the prototypes out there before Overland Expo. And you outfit your rig for overlanding, man, it feels good because that same recreational experience is going to set you up for success in the worst case scenario. We talked about on Rogan's podcast, he found us because he saw that we were going from Phoenix, Arizona to the Canadian border on one tank of gas. And why would we do that? Well, I mean, I would say why not? It was fun. But we're trying to see what are the limitations. If you have a quarter tank of gas and you have a $100,000 overland rig and you run out of gas, you have a large couple $1,000-pound weight, that's not going to do anything for you. A little bit of insulation until you don't have the insulation, you'll freeze to death, and that's your capability. So you need to think about these things because the bug-out vehicle is what's going to allow you to protect your family, bug out, bug in, and do those logistical resupplies. And it's a good excuse to tell the wife that, hey, I got to do all these things to, make sure I outfit the rig. It's fun as hell, too, so make sure you just follow that life that we're living. Fieldcraft Survival on Instagram, Mike Hernandez on Instagram. Make sure you check out all the things that we're doing with those great partners. And come out and see us. We have our next course. I think the mobility experience right now is sold out for February. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to that. We have a private chef that comes out. We teach survival, first aid. Hernandez teaches vehicle recovery, maintenance. June 9th through the 11th. Make sure you come out and see us for the next mobility experience. On to Homestead. I got in trouble from my marketing director this morning because I put it out that by June 6th, I want to have an online Homestead. Man, I am very hesitant to put this out and continue to say this, but I want to be able to teach core curriculum and homeschooling online through our app. Why would I want to do that? Well, if you look at Apogee and all the things that Tim Kennedy is doing with his school, the infrastructure and the buildup of that is amazing, but it's limited. And, man, he's got a waiting list a mile long. How can we help in that same way by taking advantage of this application that we're doing with preparedness, education, and content? It's by providing core curriculum standards and virtual online education for people who want to homeschool. From 2016 to 2021, homeschooling increased by 10%. That saved the taxpayer $56 billion. Now, I don't really care about saving the taxpayer anything, but if it's an institutional buy-in that you need, whatever you need, when you look at the cost of home care or child care for your child and the broken system that is our education system, don't get me wrong, there are great schools throughout the country that are doing it right and good communities like Heber City, Utah. But if you want to homeschool, what are your options for homeschooling? Find a homeschool group, find online education, a core curriculum that's going to work. Where we're going to benefit you is we're going to teach core curriculum with preparedness in mind. So at the same time your kids are getting taught math, like the basic academics with none of the propaganda, we are also going to teach, hey, this is what you do in case of an emergency. Children, this is what you do when you're confronted with by a stranger who wants to get you in their van. You remember DARE, which was to keep kids off drugs? What did DARE stand for? Drugs are really extreme. Exciting. Scratch exciting. Extreme. But they had the DARE programs and all these nonprofits that worked with us because these programs were facilitating what the school as a core curriculum couldn't do. So instead of us focusing on that as institutions, we've taken and partitioned that energy into talking about your children about sexual exploitation, what gender your children could be. That ain't going to work for me. If I found, let me just not even go there. Let me just not even go there if I found out my kids were being taught something like that. That ain't going to work for me. So that online opportunity through Homestead will be something that Amber will educate you in, and we'll try to get our shit together by June 6th to make it happen. Can I make promises? No, I can't make the promise, but regardless, our app will be ready to launch by June 6th, which is the same day that our new book will drop. Our new book, Prepared, I say we because it's a collective effort. It's not just me. I don't know shit about this without the experts that I'm in bed with. I have a narrow field of experience, but talking, consulting, and working with experts, we're able to provide you something, a manual for people who are looking how to prepare for the worst case scenario, which if you ain't been in a nuclear attack, you can't really prepare for that. Thank the Biden administration for that. That's just my little political, let me just drop that in there. Lastly, before I move on to book, Stable Sport Gun CLP. Now, I picked this up because it is reasonably inexpensive compared to normal CLP, but people kept asking me, hey, how come you haven't done anything on maintenance? I haven't done anything in maintenance because I don't want to sit in front of a camera and clean my gun for an hour. That's really boring, but you need to be doing routine maintenance on all your stuff. If you don't pick up some kind of CLP, I don't care what it is. Stable Sport is a good CLP product that I use personally in my gun room, which is like 5 feet that way. A lot of people neglect the way to do good routine maintenance. I will do a video on my Patreon for those that are more closely subscribed to the content on patreon.com/Mike Glover. The reason I'll do that is because if you're just a little bit closer to me in bed when it comes to content, I'll provide you that. I just want to put it out there as a way to remind you that maintenance and all these things long term are super important. What's that show? I watched it last night. It's not a catchy show name. The one on HBO. Last of Us. Oh my God, show's so awesome. It's so awesome because it's so bad. Like the things they do, I'm like, what are you doing with that Remington 700 deer rifle? In that, what I thought was really cool, me and Evan are going to do a Green Berets react to like the apocalypse kind of show. One of the things that I appreciated about the show, which is episodic, it releases one episode at a time. The recent episode, or the first episode, they have what it looks like 20 years later in 2023, where there's no material support. You don't have imports and exports. There's no trade, and so all their gear is like used up. The maintenance typically isn't maintained, so they have all this like wonky, like LCE and old tactical nylon. I appreciated that. If that happened, the biggest threat to you would be sustaining your survivability long term. That would be a profound issue. So imagine what you have right now materially. If you had no access, no maintenance, nothing, because you couldn't get the cleaner, you couldn't get the CLP, you couldn't get the additional nylon or clothing or material. How is that going to work for us? Years down the road, you can't even wash your clothes. Besides doing it by hand with a bar of ivory that's limited in supply. So what would that look like? I'm not saying prepare for that, but I'm saying why justify buying bottles of this? Well, that's a good way to justify it, because why would you not want that on the shelf? Especially because the stuff clean, lubricates, and protects long term. And I use it on all tools I use it on knives, I use it on guns, I use it on anything that's metal. I even use it on car parts, because if you look at the ingredients of this, it's kind of like WD-40 or gun scrubber, a similar material, but pick up some of that. I feel like I talked about that way too long. Books. This episode, I'm going to talk about Black Powder, Red Earth. My good buddy John Chang makes graphic novels. I know some of you guys have yellow fever. That's why you watch me. And you're into anime. Hey, if you're into that, that's cool. I'll start a Twitch channel soon. OnlyFans. Feed only, because you guys are into that. But graphic novels, as it's concerned, are not my thing. But when you include like accurate depictions of cool guys doing cool things, that's pretty cool. I think that's like no bullshit. That's Raul Martinez, a guy who used to work for us at Fieldcraft, who's doing his own thing at Rogue Methods. That's him on the front cover of this. But super cool graphics, and somebody that I want to support. But also, man, if you're into this, I certainly am in this depiction. Pick it up. My book, selfishly, and I thought I had the book. It's somewhere here, right? Krista, my PA, showed me the prepared. I wish I had it for you, but hey, that's what John's for. He'll just drop. Wait, it's drop that little. There you go. You see it right now. It's so beautiful. We are number 2 on Amazon top list for that book in its category, which I think is like hunting and camping or outdoors, whatever, behind like a bushcraft manual that has 22,000 reviews. Third is the SAS survival book, which I grew up with. Why we're there, I have no freaking reason or reason to be there except your support. You guys have supported this book. You pre-ordered it. Hardcover supports are up thousands of orders because you are supporting this book, and I just want to say thank you for that. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to be here doing what I do. I love preparedness. I love that my guys can immerse ourselves in that. When so many companies can't do that, we get the opportunity to focus on preparedness and educate you guys, and the fact you trust us, it's amazing. Lastly, let's talk about a couple of things. We started the experience course curriculum because we didn't just want technical training. Like I'm training with Matt Vanny and Pistol in a couple months, which is exciting. I love Matt. I love Colorado. I love training Coloradoans. It's just super fun. We are going to continue to do that. The Fieldcraft training side with Kevin Owens and Sean Kirkwood, they're churning out the courses. Go do that with Kevin Estella. Go be part of that. But the experience version is longer form. It's also experience-based, meaning you're going to be able to meet good people and have a more intimate conversation and understanding of the subject matter, and it's more expensive. Like, I'm not going to tell you that it's not going to be more expensive. Well, why would it be more expensive? Because I'm a business, and I'm trying to grow a business, but also provide value. Well, I'm trying to strike a balance. What that means is I'm not going to hide secrets. Like most of your consumer options, you're buying the stuff and you don't care. But I expect that because you're bought into the company, that I'm going to be transparent with you with the things that we're doing. So when I charge you $3,200 for a rewilding program, well, Mike, that seems really expensive because guys comment like, oh, who could afford this? Well, if you stop paying for dumb shit like your Starbucks, I don't know, like if you just budget cut, you're paying $3,200 for a pistol, but you won't go and spend the money for the training, then that's on you. What I'll tell you transparently is I'm hiring a chef. I'm hiring people who have profound experiences over decades of time to come and sit and break bread with you. I'm also putting out all the effort and support, which when we look at the margins and the actual numbers, makes us profit, but not a lot of profit. So I hope you're bought into that transparency because I want to be transparent about it. And this Montana knife drop, I don't get upset about a lot of things when it comes to like, hey, we're putting out a product, you're complaining about it, then don't buy it, right? That's a consumer option. We are not catering to people who don't want to buy our products. We're catering to people who want to buy our products. The great thing about consumer options is it's an option. But Josh Smith texted me last night like, man, I'm getting hammered, which means my wife is getting attacked because she handles in his small business of American-made knives, hunting knives in Montana, is getting attacked because people were so upset they couldn't get a Montana knife, Fieldcraft Survival Edition. I don't know what that is. One, it's made in America. Two, we have to do small batch because we as small businesses don't take on a lot of capital to put thousands of them on the shelves, or because you're pissed off at us, we don't go to China because it doesn't feel good to do that and provide millions of knives at your disposal at a cheaper price point. So we have to make small batch orders of that. And then when we release it, we say, if you are a subscriber of my newsletter, Patreon, Facebook group, we are giving you early notice. And guess what? We sold out hundreds of knives days before that because you were on our newsletter. But if you weren't on a newsletter and you waited until the clock hit 7 p.m. in Montana, a knife company, Mountain Standard Time, then you potentially missed out. Look, I love that people are such demanding of the limited supply of knives, and that feels good as a small business owner. But I hate that people have to attack Josh Smith's wife, and they're like, how dare you guys do this because I've been trying to get this knife for forever. I don't know, just have higher speed internet. I don't know, just be more Johnny on the spot or subscribe to a newsletter. I love that you guys are doing this. I don't appreciate the disrespect to Montana Knife Company and his wife because these are small businesses. And this isn't pointed at you guys that got the knife because you guys are happy. It's the guys who didn't get the knife that aren't happy. We are doing these in small batches, I think every couple of months. We will continue to churn these out because we want to support our consumers and we love the support you give to us. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be in business. Last but not least, let's talk about Rogan. Dude, what an amazing experience. Joe Rogan is like the most evolved human. I hope I evolve into Joe Rogan in my 50s, where he's the most grounded human being I've ever been around. He's also in a position where he has to be surrounded by security because there are crazy nut jobs attacking him on everything, including dreams about Elon Musk and him coming to have conversations with Rogan because they have a spiritual connection. Like, get the fuck out of here. We could probably bleep F. I'll bleep that. But when you meet Joe Rogan in person, he's everything that he is, which is why he's the biggest voice on podcast and in the world on every platform. His numbers demonstrate that, and he's a voice to be reckoned with because he's balanced. I went to his nightclub, or I went to a nightclub where he was hosting. His nightclub opens next month in Austin, Texas. Make sure you go check him out. But man, I was just taken back by how grounded and down to earth he is. And we had an amazing conversation. If you haven't heard the podcast, you can get it on Spotify, The Joe Rogan Experience. Just humbled by the opportunity. I might have said some dumb shit. I don't remember, kind of blacked out. It's hard not to black out when you're wearing a life preserver because it's so damn tight. And you're chugging like Black Rifle coffee times 10. I think I had 10 coffees. We had 5 glasses of water. I pissed in a colostomy bag like 3 times. It was like a 10-hour podcast. Go check it out, Joe Rogan Experience. I appreciate all the things that you guys do for us. Make sure you share this experience across all the people you love. Subscribe, hit the notification tab. Anything else, John? Am I missing something? I covered a lot. Yeah, it was a shit ton. I hit you in the mouth with a fire hose of everything. Take that. You know you guys like that. I shouldn't say it like that while holding a bottle of COP that's shaped like this. I apologize. Let's cut that. Let's cut that part. Till next time. Peace out, guys.